name is Mia Slovak from 1A Anatomy class, and today I'm going to be going over the different muscle movements. The joint involved, the muscle involved, the agonist and antagonist for each movement, the plane for each movement, and how I apply it in the real world in my life.
The first movement is flexion at the elbow. Biceps brachii is a muscle involved. Agonist, biceps, antagonist, triceps is part of the sagittal plane, and lifting my backpack up is how I apply it to the real world. The next movement is extension at the elbow. Triceps brachii is a muscle involved. Agonist, triceps, antagonist, biceps, part of the sagittal plane, and opening a door is how I apply it to my everyday life. Next movement is hyperextension at the neck. Trapezius is a muscle involved. Agonist, sternocleidomastoid. Antagonist, upper trapezius, part of the sagittal plane, and getting my hair wet in the shower is how I apply it to the real world. Next movement is dorsiflexion at the ankle. Tibialis anterior is a muscle involved. Tibialis anterior is the agonist as well. Antagonist, soleus, part of the sagittal plane, and kicking a ball is how I apply it to the real world. Plantar flexions at the ankle is the next movement. Soleus is a muscle involved. Soleus is agonist. Tibialis anterior is antagonist, part of the sagittal plane, and stepping on the gas or brake when driving is how I apply it to the real world. Abduction at the shoulder is next. The deltoid is a muscle involved. The deltoid is agonist. Pec major is antagonist, part of the frontal plane, and raising my hand in class is how I apply it to the real world. Next is adduction of the shoulder. The pec major is a muscle involved. The pec major is the agonist. The deltoid is antagonist, part of the frontal plane, and sweeping the floor is how I apply it to the real world. Inversion at the ankle is next. Tibialis anterior is a muscle involved. Tibialis anterior is agonist. Peroneus longus, antagonist, part of the frontal plane, and kicking a soccer ball is how I apply it to the real world. Eversion of the ankle is next. Tibialis anterior is a muscle involved. The peroneus longus agonist. Tibialis anterior is antagonist, part of the frontal plane, and sliding my shoe on is how I apply it in the real world. Radial deviation of the wrist is next. Flexor carpi radialis is a muscle involved. APL agonist, flexor carpi radialis, antagonist, part of the frontal plane, and using a mouse of a computer is how I apply it to the real world. Ulnar deviation of the wrist is next. Flexor carpi ulnaris is a muscle involved. Extensor carpi ulnaris is agonist. Flexor carpi ulnaris, antagonist, part of the frontal plane, and pressing buttons with my pinky when I'm typing on my computer is how I apply it to the real world. Next is medial rotation at the shoulder. Subscapularis is a muscle involved. The agonist is the subscapularis as well. Antagonist is the infrasupinatus, part of the transverse plane, and reaching and getting something from my back pocket is how I apply it in the real world. Lateral rotation of the shoulder is next. Infrasupinatus is the muscle involved. Agonist, infrasupinatus. Antagonist, latissimus dorsi, transverse plane, and wiping a table is how I apply it to the real world. Pronation of the elbow is next. Pronator teres is a muscle involved. Pronator teres is the agonist. Supinator is antagonist, part of the transverse plane, and painting my nails is how I apply it to the real world. Supination of the elbow is next. The supinator is the muscle involved. The supinator is the agonist as well. The antagonist is the pronator quadratus, is part of the transverse plane, and carrying my dog is how I would apply it to the real world. Circumduction at the shoulder is next. The pec major is a muscle involved. Agonist is anterior deltoid. Antagonist, middle deltoid, is multiplanar, and washing my car is how I would apply it to the real world. Position of the thumb is next. The opponent's pollicis is a muscle involved. The opponent's pollicis is agonist. Antagonist is opponent's digiti minimi, and it's multiplanar, and when you do an OK sign is how I apply it to the real world. Those are all the muscle movements and all the information associated with them. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.